Welcome to Saturday Showcase, presented by 5 Hour Energy. Senior Day here at PNC Arena for 4 of the members of the NC State Wolfpack as they welcome in the Louisville Cardinals as part of these teams' ACC regular season finale. Bubbles ballooning and bursting around college basketball today. Winners in this league, Miami, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and Florida State. And still coming down to the wire, Virginia and Notre Dame. So glad you're here with us today. Mike Cousins and the former Virginia standout, Corey Alexander. Glad to have you with us. So, Corey, NC State, Louisville, what's at stake for these two?
Well, both these teams are known now that they will be playing on Wednesday at the ACC tournament. NC State wants to have the highest seed possible, but Louisville, this is an opportunity for them to get what would be a quadrant 1 win on the road over a top team and be able to impress the NCAA tournament committee. And also for Louisville, they are one of the only 4 teams that have won 20 games over the last 15 seasons. David Padgett does not want to be the coach that lets them down on that one.
Well, as of earlier today, Louisville went from the last 4 teams into the last 4 byes, so that's good for them. But that's the action around the rest of college basketball. Now they have a chance over the next 2 hours to help make their destiny even better.
And one of the things for Louisville, and we'll see early, do they have a hangover over what they describe as a gut-wrenching loss versus Virginia at their home court, where the Cavaliers came in and ruined their senior night.
So Virginia with a win over Notre Dame on its home floor. A nice way to finish the season for the Cavaliers. Helps to solidify the seeding picture for the ACC tournament a little bit. So for Louisville now, it's a 6 seed with a win and a 9 seed with a loss. And for NC State, if they win, they're 5-6, pending the action later today between Duke and North Carolina. And it's pretty easy. If they lose, they're a number 8 seed.
And on the first possession defensively for Louisville, you see somewhat of a microcosm of their season, coming up with a block shot where they're one of the top teams in the country blocking shots, but yet unable to secure the defensive rebound, giving North Carolina State second chance points.
A gut-wrenching loss for Louisville in the Thursday night defeat at Georgia Tech for NC State. They try and get back on the right side of things, ending a 4-game winning streak in a game that Kevin Keats, their head coach, said looked like they just didn't play like as much of a team as they're capable of. Markel Johnson was looking for a nifty assist and said he gets a nice basket for 2.
Well, and what you're seeing with the starting lineup for Senior Day for NC State, Kevin Keats had to go away from his 4-guard lineup to get Abdul-Malik Abdul in the game, as well as Leonard Freeman. So they're playing 2 bigs up front, which they've gotten away from over the last 5 games where they've been playing so well.
Adele with a step through, pure power to go right through Freeman for the first 2 for Louisville. Adele, the leading scorer for the Cardinals at 15 points a game. Just inside the 3-point arc and well off the mark for a boot.
And both these teams want to be able to play fast. Louisville likes to do a lot of their damage in the paint with Spalding. And now Mahmoud coming up with the offensive rebound opportunity.
David Padgett in very good spirits today when we saw him this afternoon, despite that difficult loss. But he and his players both very open about the fact that they made mistakes down the stretch in that game against Virginia, one they could have had against the #1 team in the country, and they'll learn from it. Johnson with the rip, and he's hit hard from behind. Foul is called on Adele at the bucket.
Foul on Adele, number 22.
Kevin Keats, the former Louisville assistant, first time going up against his old team as the head coach at NC State, and the second time he's facing them overall as a head coach. Go back a couple of years in his first season as the head coach at Wilmington. Lost at the Yumson.
And that's one of the areas where, you know, with, of course, 15 teams in the ACC now, you think about it, and here we are March 3rd, and you have 2 teams facing each other for the very first time during the season. And that really could be, you know, that's one of those things that you look at as a challenge, because, of course, you could turn around and see these 2 teams possibly, you know, it's not you know, something that we see early in the possible schedule, but you can see these two teams going at each other in the ACC tournament, but not having much familiarity with each other at all.
It's part of the fun of the bracket, especially with the ACC's tournament starting Tuesday in Brooklyn. And a nice round of applause there for Sam Hunt, the grad transfer who gets the start on senior day, and now Braxton Beverly is out onto the floor for the Wolfpack. But the only seeds that were decided coming into play today in the ACC tournament, 1 and 15. Virginia, of course, had long locked up the regular season title, and Pittsburgh had been at the opposite end of things.
And you see a beautiful feed from Adele to Mahmoud over the top right there, off the screen and roll, and that's one of the staples of what David Padgett likes to do with offensive end of the floor, almost a screen-to-screener where there's a back screen for Mahmoud after he sets the pick and roll. You mentioned that. That's really been, you know, an area of the season. And Spalding, who is a great shot blocker, wanting to make sure that he doesn't allow Yurt-7 to see that go through, but you see on the screen and roll, Mahmoud, and actually there was no back screen on that one. He was so open that I thought someone had to have put a back screen on him, but that just honestly was just not great defense by NC State on that possession.
Who do you like in this matchup between Mahmoud and Yurt-7?
Well, Yurt-7 has played very good basketball, especially here at PNC Arena. Had a big-time showdown with Ben Lammers on Thursday night where he was really good. So from the standpoint of being a guy that's going to put up numbers and put points on the board offensively, Yurt-7, I go that way. But on the other end of the floor, defensively, Anas Mahmoud is one of the best defenders that you're going to see in the ACC because he can not only guard in the post, but can get out and help on the screen and roll defense. So we got a great matchup between those two bigs here today.
Yurt-7, 17 points, 9 rebounds in 35 minutes on Thursday in Atlanta. It's Dwayne Sutton. The first minutes for him today, checking in for Ray Spalding for the Cardinals. Sutton on the drive from the corner, drops it off. It's an easy finish for Mahmoud.
But what you've seen now is Louisville has matched NC State, and this is the way NC State has started their last 5 games, where they pretty much have had the 4-guard lineup. But with Louisville, they have so much talent on the floor. They have the capability to match with any team, and they have size to go along with that talent to where their big guys can actually step out on the perimeter and defend.
Sutton gets the tip, he's ahead of the pack and finishes with 2 hands.
You know, and that play, and although he won't get credit for it, that was Anas Mahmoud who made that defensive stop happen. He didn't come up with the deflection, but because of his ability to get out on the perimeter and guard, he was capable to stop for that.
Yurt-7's been posting up inside. They're switching on those screens, and Johnson is turned away. Louisville denied its 20th win. Still looking for it after a gut-wrenching one that got away on Thursday night.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get back to 100%. And in part by Charles Schwab. Own your tomorrow.
Thursday night, the most action-packed 9/10 of a second in sports. A foul on a 3-pointer sends Ty Jerome to the line. He hits 2 of 3. Lane violation on Virginia gives it back to Louisville. A travel on the baseline. Adele couldn't move. So it's in for a 3 to win it. And that's exactly what DeAndre Hunter did for Virginia. Louisville had a chance for a huge resume-boosting victory, and it faded away right in front of them on their home floor.
The best thing about that for Louisville is less than 48 hours from that game, they are back on the court. Talking with David Padgett today in shoot-around, he made it very clear that he would much prefer to have had that happen when they have a game coming up in comparison to having to sit on that feeling for a full week.
A look at their resume, their last 4 byes right now per Joe Lunardi's projections as a number 11 seed, which is up from earlier today where they were one of the last 4 teams in. Goodell from 15 feet gets the bucket. The Cardinals lead by 3.
But also another block shot on the defensive end of the floor for the ACC's leading shot blocker, Anis Mahmoud, and he's been all over the place early in this game defensively for the Cards.
Corey, that Virginia game was not unfamiliar, certainly in the way that it happened, because it was painful and it was unusual. But there have been other late losses this year for Louisville, whether it was at Clemson, a couple of chances to win in the final minute, they lost in overtime, or against Miami, Lonnie Walker scoring over Mahmoud with a few seconds to go.
Well, Louisville's been through a lot this year. I think that's, pretty much an understatement to appear to say that. But yet, David Padgett feels as though this team deserves to be able to play in the NCAA tournament. And they still have a strong resume to be able to match up with pretty much anyone around the country.
Snyder from 3, and that is almost automatic when he's there, leading a three-point shooter in ACC play at 46%.
And that has been a strong bonus for Louisville. They struggled shooting the basketball earlier in the year, but they've picked it up recently in ACC play, which has allowed them to have success. But when you've got a 7-footer that can stretch the floor and knock down threes like that, that is extremely difficult to guard, referring to year 7.
Yeah, he's now north of 51% on the year, his 20th made 3 of the season.
So you know how I feel about that, right?
You love math?
Well, no, not that. I'm a fan of math, but especially when the math equals 50% shooting. But the 20s made 3s, he should have many more made 3s if he's shooting 50%. Definitely got to get more looks. And NC State, now with an opportunity to get out in transition, that's the way Kevin Keats wants his team to be able to play.
Snyder with Beverly on his hip, off balance, missed it wide, into the hands of Al Freeman. The graduate transfer from Baylor, honored tonight on senior night, 104 for the Wolfpack.
That play right there, even though Mahmoud did not have to jump, he still affected that play because NC State has seen him block so many shots at the rim. Al Freeman going to something different.
Well, after we wrap up here, we're not going to have to send you too far because 8:15 Eastern, it's part 2 of college basketball's best rivalry in a Sonic blockbuster. North Carolina and Duke comes your way at 8:15 Eastern right here on ESPN. Dell at the line, 78% on the season. So you got to love the numbers between these two teams. 50-50 in the last 100 and separated by just 7 points total in that time.
And when you look at the two teams and these two programs' history, and I love what Coach K said about it earlier, that he and Roy Williams both had some very good coaches ahead of them that established this rivalry. They're just caretakers of these two great programs right now. But, Duke, North Carolina goes way, way back, much further than Coach K and Roy Williams. And it's been a great rivalry since the days, of course, of Dean Smith. And I believe it's Vic Lewis. Is that right? You don't know that. You're too young to even know.
Thank you for immediately disqualifying me.
Yeah, exactly. I asked the wrong person about that.
Seating's pretty simple ACC tournament-wise in that one, though. Johnson's off on the 3, and it's a push underneath the basket. Duke with a win, they're the number 2 seed in the ACC tournament. A loss, they're number 3. For Carolina, they win and they're number 2, and with a loss, they're either 5 or 6.
I believe it's going to be extremely difficult for North Carolina to go into Cameron Indoor and win on Grayson Allen senior night. That's going to be a tough task to do, and that's a big game for Carolina. You go anywhere from 2 to actually playing, on Wednesday. So a huge game.
Right, that's the difference between playing either at 2:30 on Wednesday or 9:30 on Wednesday, or the double bye. You travel later, you play later on Thursday. Spalding a little bit too much juice on the turnaround, and a foul under the basket. 11:43 to go. 2 touchdowns apiece for State and the Cards. How do you build an NCAA tournament resume in your first year? Well, it helps if you can knock off 2 number-2 teams. Then into the new year, a win against 19th ranked Clemson, a win at Carolina in overtime, and most recently over number 25 Florida State. 4 teams in the top 15, 5 in the top 25, doing that with 2 grad transfers and 2 freshmen, and they like where they are right now, projected as a 9 seed.
Well, and the difference between these 2 programs right now is just that, those 5 top 25 wins. And when you think about what NC State's been able to do this year, when you look at, they beat Arizona when Arizona was number 2 in the country. They beat Duke when Duke was number 2 in the country. And of course, they were able to get a number of quality wins here on their home court, and that big win on the road at North Carolina. So that's the difference between the 2 right now. David Padgett's team, and forgive me, Mike, for saying this, their worst loss is Syracuse. And I know how that hurts you when that's considered a bad loss for Syracuse.
It's certainly not been the most banner of years in Central New York.
But you know, David Padgett's Louisville squad, they don't have a bad resume. But the difference between the 2 is they don't have those quality wins that Kevin Keith's program has been able to go out and take care of this year.
It's really an interesting contrast, too, talking to David Padgett and talking to Kevin Keats. When I spoke with Coach Keats, probably about 90 minutes before tip-off, he goes, here's where we are quadrant 1. Here's where we are quadrant 2. I know where all of our good wins are. David Padgett, on the other hand, he does no news reading, has no social media except for Instagram to follow what's going on in his own family, and sometimes will check a headlines app, and that's it.
And you know I'm more so down with the Padgett with the Padgett style. That other stuff is way too much to keep up with. I get paid to do this, and I still don't understand what quadrant 1 and quadrant 2 wins are. So all of that is a bit confusing. I'm a more firm believer, just go out and play the game. You win, you take care of business.
Would you think it's fair to call it new window dressing for the same old formula?
I do believe that is the case. It's just different terminology than what we've seen before.
Hey, how about that throwdown at the rim? Nice toss over the shoulder from McMahon to Spalding.
And McMahon has really given Louisville great minutes this season. His ability to shoot the ball from the perimeter, but also has become a much better playmaker. And when you have guys like Spalding and Mahmoud on the interior, a lot of the times all you have to do is be able to get into the paint and find a way just to throw it up in an area where only your guy can get it. And with Spalding, Mahmoud, you know, even with Williams coming off the bench, Louisville has a number of guys that can raise up over the competition to where only their guy can get the basketball.
McMahon, number 30 in the black Louisville uniform, missed about 2 months early in the season with a rib injury that he suffered in practice running into a screen from Anas Mahmoud. His rib collided with Mahmoud's waist, hip bone to rib. That's what happens when you run into a 7-footer.
Yeah, you got to protect yourself when you go and mess around with those 7-footers. Those are guys that normally their elbows are at your eye level. So, again, being that size often can be detrimental to players much smaller.
7 points now for Adele, who's hit from just inside that elbow already twice in the first half. Deep 3, good for Beverly.
And that's the one area where NC State has been special, especially here in their home arena, shooting the basketball from beyond the 3-point arc. And Braxton Beverly definitely one of the main culprits for that.
A little bit of extra hang time, acrobatics from Adele.
That's a tough shot right there. He's going away from the basket across his body and still with the touch to be able to get it up on the glass.
You're at 7, hand in his face. Nearly had his second 3 of the night go down. Adele called for the clear out, went away from it, and he's fouled on the drive. It's number 2 on Beverly.
And Dang doing a great job attacking the rim on the first one. No foul on that one. A little bit of contact with the body control to be able to find the right spot on the glass. And then Braxton Beverly, you've got to take away his airspace, because when he gets looks at it, especially here at home, he's knocking him down. You look at the lineup on the floor for Louisville right now. They've gone away from the 2 big lineup Although David Padgett did start Spalding and Mahmoud in the front court, he has played primarily this whole first half with just one big on the floor and allowing his guards, playing 4 guards in order to be able to match up with NC State. And that's the best way to be able to keep NC State off the three-point line, which is where they're normally successful.
And you're seeing Dwayne Sutton on the floor here with significant minutes in the first half. Hunt with the baseline basket. Sutton, you remember, back on the 24th of February, got the start against Virginia Tech, his first, specifically because of the smaller lineup employed by the Hokies. Freeman trying to shake her down. Johnson had good positioning, caught Perry behind him, and draws the foul. Yurt 7 has posted up quite a bit, but has not gotten the inside touches that maybe he would deserve with his position.
Well, he's also playing against 2 great defenders, whether it's Spalding or Mahmoud guarding him on the interior, but he did come up with the offensive rebound on that possession and get it back out, and that's one of the areas of concern for Louisville. They're actually being out-rebounded by 3 in ACC play, which is not characteristic of this program, but that's another thing that they're going to have to be able to get together if they want to have some success in the postseason.
Johnson left it short. Dorn powers his way inside and sends it to the perimeter. Dorn's got the mismatch. Mahmoud was with him step for step, and it was just a hair off.
But look at how often you see Mahmoud having to actually go out on the perimeter and guard a guard for NC State. And not only is he doing it, he's winning that battle most often.
That's not easy to do because just being that big, your strides are longer, your steps are slower.
It's not easy for guards to guard a lot of these NC State guards. So when you see the 7-footer, 7-foot plus Mahmoud going out there doing it, then you see him affect that shot from Yurt 7 just with his length. If you like defense, in which I've never been one of those guys that claim to be a big-time defender, but it's great to be able to watch a guy who understands how to play on the defensive end of the floor the way Honest Mahmoud does.
Did you read that article on Virginia on the Ringer?
No.
You did?
You could have stopped it. Did I read that article?
Oh, we're so enlightened here today.
Did we just talk about David Padgett? And I said I like that style. I'm not the one that's going to read all that information. I like to watch basketball, talk about basketball. We've got a great one here this afternoon.
The king of the idiocracy sitting to my right. Right after we're done here, that's where we'll send you to Carolina and Duke. And that brings us to our Wendy's Wooden Watch tonight. Luke May and Marvin Bagley for Carolina and Duke, respectively. I want your take on this, especially with Luke May. You know, the Duke defense has played so well lately, zone 90% of the time since they lost to Carolina. How do you see that playing out for May?
Well, Luke May, of course, is a guy that can play inside out. So when you play a zone against a big like a Luke May, you have to recognize where he is beyond the three-point arc, because he's dangerous there as well. But the length of the Duke zone, when you put Bagley back into the lineup, is tremendous. But what the zone does, it slows down their tempo. And people look at the numbers for Duke offensively. They're not the same team offensively because they're not getting as many possessions. And that could be dangerous for Duke when you've got so many guys that want to score and they don't have as many possessions. Now you've got a lot of guys not getting the shots they're used to. That could cause a problem as well.
McMahon's lay-in gives the Cardinals a 3-point lead. That is an interesting factor, that as much as they want to play up-tempo, it does slow them down. But Carolina has shot 48% against zone defense this year, best of any of the 15 teams in this league.
Here you go with these numbers again. I'm sure you read those somewhere too, huh?
Would you like me to draw you pictures?
No, I'm a point guard, buddy. I get paid to lead, not to read.
That's good.
I can't say I made that up myself.
Freeman hit on the arm underneath the bucket. Would you like to read this promo?
No, I'll let you take that.
No, I'm not going to do it. You have to do it.
Okay. So now we have coming up later at 10:15 Eastern on ESPN. It's more Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy. UCLA travels cross town to take on USC with both teams on the tourney bubble. Of course, this is also available on the ESPN app.
I said so casually.
So it's not as though I can't read.
Well, I wasn't sure. You put me to the test. And so
it's not my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
3-point game here at PNC Arena with the foul on Spalding for Louisville, his second, and some time on the bench with David Padgett.
We got Bill Walton on the call tonight. I'm sure he'll be doing something. He's probably doing some philosophy reading. I'm sure he'll share something, you know, in Walton's world with us as to what he's read today. Now, I will say that most likely will have nothing to do with basketball, but yeah, great entertainment.
If my memory serves me correctly, tonight is going to be the best of Walton's world. And what Dave Pash tweeted, this is not verbatim, but I think close to what he said was, pray for me. So, we're with you, Dave.
That's a great feed right there by the man.
Mahmoud couldn't handle it one-handed, battling with Freeman. Sixth turnover for Louisville. Johnson soars and sends it off the window, guarded by the 7-footer.
The last time those two matched up, Mahmoud threw it out of bounds. That time Johnson changing a bit of trajectory on that shot in order to be able to get it over the 7-footer's wingspan.
Big versus big. Freeman backs away, and the foul is on the floor. No! Okay, it is a foul on the floor, and that's against McMahon.
Markel Johnson, who has been spectacular for the Wolfpack since his return. An opportunity to get to the rim again, remembering what Mahmoud did to his last shot, this time going high off the glass. And no, Mike, that's not a floater. That's called a giant killer. There's a difference.
He's the player from the Forest City going into the trees. How do you like that?
Okay. Against a giant.
Right.
Which would make
live
it a
in
giant
the forest.
killer.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
We're close. We're close.
It only took us 14 and a half minutes.
I mean, how many Saturdays now?
Too many.
Okay, there you go. Too many Saturdays and 14 and a half minutes.
So here comes a substitution. Snyder is back into the game, replacing McMahon, who just picked up the foul. And it's Johnson at the line. What a season it's been for Markel Johnson, who was suspended earlier this year. Back in December. Charges against him that were dropped in his hometown of Cleveland, and came back to action against Virginia. They went 4-3 without him, but they are certainly better with him on the floor, leading the ACC with almost 8 assists a game.
Yeah, now that he's gotten 75% of their games, he can be counted in the ACC stats, and once he was able to do so, immediately became the ACC's assist leader and also third in steals. But more importantly, he gets everyone in positions and gets shots for the scorers on this floor.
2 to shoot, hence the wayward attempt, and it's a shot clock violation.
And the biggest possession defensively that we've seen from NC State yet today, and that was a struggle for them on Thursday night, guarding Georgia Tech in the half court. So Kevin Keats has to be happy with the defensive effort he's seen from his team, especially on their half court defense.
Is it any surprise that NC State gets better defensively when LeVar Batts is out on the floor?
No surprise at all on that one, but all day is good offensively, especially shooting the basketball from beyond the arc. As Al Freeman finds his way to the rim and is able to muscle that one in over top of the Louisville defense.
30-second timeout for Louisville, and we'll be right back. 30, don't go anywhere. Healthy crowd here tonight in Raleigh. We welcome you back to the ACC on ESPN inside PNC Arena. My cousins Corey Alexander, Joe Lenardi, as of right now, has 9 teams from the ACC into the field. Louisville, 19-11, trying to bolster its resume. And who knows what the latest iteration of bracketology will bring later tonight, after Syracuse picked up a win at home at the Carrier Dome. A quadrant 1 win, its first win against an AP top 25 team this year, in front of more than 28,000, the largest crowd to see a college basketball game this season.
And did Notre Dame help themselves with a strong performance by Bonzi Colson at Virginia?
2 to shoot. Strong box outs under the rim. Freeman might try and go coast to coast, around and out. Now Liddell with a chance to do the same. Johnson couldn't get out of the way. The foul's his first. The crowd doesn't like it, but they do have to enjoy a 2-point home team advantage. Champ Week, and you've got a really brutal schedule, Corey. Starting tomorrow, you have to go into the sun.
Yeah, that is brutal. Showing up at Florida Gulf Coast
for the Atlantic Sun. And meanwhile, on Tuesday, it'll be the New York Life ACC tournament. Boston College, Georgia Tech, Syracuse, Wake Forest, and Notre Dame, Pittsburgh, your opening round action. That's what we know right now. This game and then the final game of the regular season, Duke, North Carolina, which follows us. 8:15 Eastern right here on ESPN will determine the final seeding of that tournament.
Isn't that what we've known all year? Virginia's at the top, Pittsburgh's been at the bottom, and then the 13 teams in the middle will just kind of figure it out one day. And that day will be today, but probably won't happen, of course, until about 10:30 this evening.
But you certainly didn't expect that NC State and Clemson would be where they are, given their respective spots in the preseason poll at 12 for the Pack and 13 for the Tigers.
Well, honestly, NC State, I think, has been a bit of a surprise. Clemson wasn't a surprise. With the talent that they had and the year that they had last year, I think you would expect to see them come back and have a strong season. At least I did.
Sure.
Because I watch basketball. I don't read about it. I'm watching. You see what I'm saying? The eye test, Mike, is big in this game.
I'm going to need to see a psychologist at halftime here. I wonder if it's a 20-minute halftime today. But, you know, it's talking to Kevin Keats, too. He said it's fair to make the comparison between what he did as a prep school coach at Hargrave Military Academy, where he was from 2003 to 2011, to what he's done this year, where you take guys, you have them for 1 year. Now, granted, he's going to have these players, this group, longer than 1 year, but you have to make them win in 1 year, and he's been able to do that here. And he says that's part of what he loves, is being a teacher and being able to make that curriculum really condensed just in your preseason practice, and then see how it works once you get on the floor in November.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time with Kevin Keats when he was actually coaching at Hargrave and around him, and the style of play that he has brought to NC State is very similar as to the way that he played while he was at Hargrave. So it's not something that is rare to him, but that intensity that he has on the sidelines and that they bring not only to practice but shoot-arounds, where they're actually have full shoot-arounds, now we can get after them, practice and compete. And you see Coach Keats at Hargrave for 2 separate stints. I actually went away and was assistant coach at Marshall at one point, but, you know, 2 NCAA tournaments at UNC Wilmington, had a great game against Virginia last year. Remember Tony Bennett saying there's no team in the ACC that plays that way, and here you are a year later, there is a team in the ACC that plays that way because you had that coach in the ACC.
He went 12-6 in conference play in his first year at Wilmington, and had a chance to pick up 12 conference wins here this year. You're at 7 straight away. Nails the three-pointer.
And for the record, Mike, he did inherit 2 sophomores, one in Markel Johnson and another in Amir Yurtseven, that are pretty good players that have made this a little bit easier transition.
It certainly has. Johnson with a hammer pass down court, and Doran foul on the way out.
But the turnovers for Louisville has really hurt them. They continue to play well on the defensive end of the floor, but off the turnover, you see Markel Johnson, and that's pretty much just dropping a dime as Doran was trying to drop the hammer. B.J. King having no parts of being on that side of the highlight.
If that pass would have led to a basket, I think it might have had a chance to spread around Twitter as much as the LeBron behind the back between the legs dribble did the other day. Do you see that?
Of course I did see it. It was all over everything. You know, and the thing is, and that's one of those plays that when you make a great play in basketball, very seldom did you try to do it. It's just one of those things that happens. LeBron, he was trying to split the pick and roll behind the back, which isn't that rare, but the fact that it just goes perfectly between his teammate Tristan Thompson's leg, that's pretty rare.
All right, the odds of that were basically 0.
No, not 0. Not 0. So you haven't read enough to know that the odds of it being 0 can't be the possibility, because it did happen, which would at least have to make it 0.1.
I've been taken to school. I thought it was spring break. Goodness. Here's Perry. Pocket pass from Mahmoud. Out of bounds with 8 to shoot. Coming up on our Alfa Romeo halftime report, Reith Reese, Seth, and Jay Will. We'll take a look at games around the ACC, how it's impacting teams on the bubble, and a first against Bill Self. Not a great game on the scoreboard for the Jayhawks today.
Disappointed in Jay Will today. He's making half-court shots in all these arenas, and he gets to go home to Duke, and he can't hit the half-court shot? I mean, come on.
But you had a student that did it today.
Which makes it even worse for Jay Will.
I want to see you do it.
No.
One dribble, strong to the rim for VJ King.
And just like that, when they get shots at the basket, Louisville is able to convert. Found themselves in a tie, yet they have, you know, the turnovers which have really hampered them here in the first half, shooting the ball great from the floor.
On the step out, shot was almost there for Yurt. He's got 8 points, 6 of those coming on three-pointers.
Another turnover for Louisville. Al Freeman does not have numbers, but that normally doesn't stop Al Freeman.
Not much does.
Smart play by Dell there, making sure he stayed connected to Sam Hunt.
Nobody's telling him no on senior night.
Oh, no, it's not going to happen. He did get a haircut, though. I saw him before the game. I said, see, you got cleaned up for senior day. He said, yeah, my mom made sure that happened.
You could have given him a haircut.
Well, you know, I keep my skills kind of to myself, with Al Freeman showing his skills off for everyone. After not forcing it on the break, just the jab step and the pull up for three. And Al Freeman has played great basketball over the last 5 games, led NC State in scoring, and he actually was inserted back into the starting lineup versus North Carolina here in the game at home after going off for a career-high 29 in Chapel Hill, the first matchup between the two. And since then, Kevin Keats has stayed with the 4-guard lineup, and Al Freeman has led NC State in scoring each of those games.
And going a little bit smaller, talking about senior day, Keats said, look, you know, we got 4 guys who are outgoing as their final home game today, and especially with Leonard Freeman and Abdul Malik Abu, 2 guys who have in some ways sacrificed their playing time for the greater good of the team because they don't fit as much into the scheme that Keats has gotten to be successful for NC State. Dorn with 5 to shoot, had it altered by Adele, and a chance for 1 shot here before the half. Three, and they gotta go. King is called for the travel, 2.3 for the Wolfpack. 11th first half turnover by Louisville.
Normally you would think 2.3 is not a lot of time, but for what we've seen in college basketball over the past couple of weeks, 2.3 is an eternity to be able to get a great shot. Not just a good shot, but a great opportunity.
It's almost 3 times as much as was left on the clock at the end of the game on Thursday night. So as the whistle blows, A.J. Desai, the official, comes over and says, hey, you didn't call a timeout. You can't huddle. And so Kevin Keats says, guess what? I just did call a 30-second timeout, so now we're going to huddle and drop a play. You got a lot of good options here for State. Who would you go to?
I'm going Yurt 7, no question about it. Because of his height and ability to be able to get a shot off over top of larger defenders, I would draw up something right now for Yurt 7 to see if we can get a little more momentum going into the locker room if I'm Kevin Keats.
I like the decision. After we're done here, 8:15 Eastern, Duke and North Carolina. It's the last game of the regular season. Big implications for seeding in the ACC tournament, and senior day for Grayson Allen at Cameron Indoor. He came in with Tyus Jones, Jaleel Okafor, Justice Winslow. Those guys have made a lot of money in the NBA, but Grayson Allen has had quite the legacy for the Blue Devils.
And Grayson Allen, of course, with an opportunity to win a national championship as a freshman and then a chance to win one as a senior, to really go down in the history of great players at Duke.
Well, they went to Sam Hunt, their leading three-point shooter. It didn't pay off, but they've really spread it around. 4 players with at least 5 and 8 different guys on on the board and a 1-point lead for NC State at the half. It's time for our halftime report. Send you to Cameron Indoor, Reese, Seth, and Jay Will.
You're watching the Alfa Romeo Halftime Report. This halftime report is presented by Alfa Romeo. This halftime report is presented by Alfa Romeo.
Welcome back to the Saturday Showcase, presented by 5 Hour Energy. We've got ourselves a 1-point game here in North Carolina. NC State leads Louisville 33-32 at the break. Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. My cousin, Spory Alexander. Not a great first half for the Cards. They turned it over 11 times. On the other side, Omer Yurtseven, a very nice first half, 8 points, including a couple three-pointers.
And Yurtseven has really proven that he is a quality big and, more importantly, a big-time shooter in the ACC, and he doesn't always get his job done on the offensive end of the floor. Defensively, he's been great, but he's been able to stretch the floor and spread out the Louisville defense. 2 3-pointers made here in the first half, and when you have a weapon like a Yurtseven, a 7-footer that can knock down threes, it makes NC State extremely difficult to guard.
That was our look at who's moving up, brought to you by Degree Deodorant. Yurtseven moving up in a lot of categories, averaging 14 a game after averaging just 5 last year. Here's what's at stake for the ACC tournament right now. Louisville wins, it's 6. They lose, they're 9. NC State, their seeding depends on the winner of Duke Carolina after us. If they win, and if they lose, they drop to the number 8 seed for the ACC tournament starting Tuesday in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center.
And Mike, of course, one of the things that you know about me is when I get to an arena, I always like to walk around and talk to the locals here and, of course, find out where the food is, as Adele's able to knock down the 3. But over my, pregame meal with many of the NC State fans and media members, we talk about
many of the NC State fans.
Well, I'm a man of the people, Mike. So Yurtseven knocked down another 3.
He's got 11.
Yeah, but, one of the things we talked about was, in my opinion, this is solely my opinion, the 8-9 game in the ACC tournament, if you're going to play on Wednesday, that's the best game to play in.
Yes, noon.
Because you know, not only just the fact that it's noon, but you know who your opponent is going to be well ahead of time. You have the opportunity to scout. And secondly, you win that game, you get an opportunity to take on the number 1 team, which happens to be the number 1 team in the country, and a chance to beat them and get a strong resume builder. So, honestly, I know Louisville would love to move up to 6, but if they play in the 8-9 game, I don't think that's a bad thing for the Cardinals, especially if they have an opportunity to win that game and get back to Virginia, which I'm sure they would love to have another opportunity to play against Virginia.
Dorn down the middle, gets it with the right hand. Here comes Snyder quickly, looking for Adele, who's got a tiptoe to save it. Louisville ended the first half with just 1 made field goal in the last 6 minutes and 45 seconds, and 7 turnovers in that span, 11 in the first half, and they give it away again.
And that's just a careless play there by the senior Snyder, who is normally very trusty with the basketball. But that time, throwing the ball in a position where Mamu would be popping in comparison to throwing it to the rim, where normally Honest is going to try to catch the alley-oop. Is that a pass? Of course it was.
Well, give the assist to Johnson as Dorn is up to 7 points.
When you put up Chris Corciani-like numbers like Markel Johnson is, everything is a pass, especially in the eyes of the scorekeepers. Had an opportunity to talk with Fire of Fire and Ice earlier today, Corciani. He actually has been at both the last 2 NC State games. He traveled to watch them in Atlanta. And then here today, and he's really excited about the way his alma mater is playing, especially Markel Johnson, who continues to keep his name in the news because Johnson, every time he does something, especially with the assist, you have to mention Chris Corciani.
That Thursday game, it didn't feel like they shared the ball quite as well as they should.
We got a wedgie, Mike.
Speak for yourself.
No, that's a wedgie. That's my man Corciani along the sidelines right there. Got his little guy hanging out with him. 1,038 career assists, second all time. That's dropping a lot of dimes, Mike.
And Markel Johnson still got 2 years to go
for the Wolfpack.
He got a hand on that one. Out of bounds, but it stays at this end of the floor.
Markel Johnson, we talk about his assist numbers, but he's actually third in the ACC in steals as well. So not just getting it done on one end of the floor, and I think he's been the biggest difference maker for NC State this season. When he returned from the suspension, he put everyone in their rightful place, allowed Braxton Beverly to play off the basketball and become a shooter again, allowed Al Freeman to become more of a scorer and not have to worry about facilitating, and got this NC State offense back into the situation they needed to be.
Freeman adeptly finishes with the left hand. Nice switch at the last second.
And early in ACC play, Al Freeman relied way too much on the jump shot, but this is the true Al Freeman that we're seeing right now. His ability to attack the basket and keep the defense, you know, on their heels, because he's a double threat to drive the ball to the rim as well as knock down the three.
Back-to-back buckets for VJ King, up to 7 points for the sophomore.
And Mike, when you look at Louisville, VJ King is the guy, in my opinion, I think that they could get more out of. VJ King is an excellent scorer, averaging a little over 8 points per game in ACC play. He should be a guy that's averaging about 15 points per game. He's that good.
Former McDonald's All-American, came in ranked number 23rd in the ESPN 100. We already know we're in for a great game later tonight with Duke in North Carolina, but I'm starting to get the sense now, 15.5 minutes to play, as these two teams trade baskets, this could come down to the last possession.
Well, we got the Blue Bloods getting it on over in Durham, so we call these the Red Bloods? No? Yes?
Yeah.
We'll go with that?
Both teams red.
Okay. Fair enough.
15:21 to play. Louisville was down by 1 at the half, and now it's the Cards by a pair on the road. Whipping around the triangle tonight. Here we are at NC State. It's just 25 miles from Cameron Indoor, also the home of the Carolina Hurricanes, who played last night. Tony Romo was here last night. He's going to be there tonight. It'll be Coach K, Roy Williams, going head-to-head for the 29th time with their teams ranked. So now that's passing the 28 matchups between Jim Boeheim and JT3. When they were at Syracuse, where Boeheim still is, and at Georgetown. Who do you think's got the edge in the series?
In the Carolina
in the
series?
Current K-Roy series, when they meet as ranked teams?
I believe it's 15-13.
Oh, I can't get anything past you.
Well, you know, again, I don't read, but I watch a lot of SportsCenter and I watch a lot of College Game Day. I see this stuff before I come in.
Education by osmosis. I like it. All right, how about this one?
I need to stop saying I don't read. I do read, because of course I have to get prepared for my games. Kids out there, I do read. It's just not my hobby.
Kay and Dean Smith, who had the edge in that series?
It was actually tied.
You do. You've just been.
Again,
you have been pulling.
Mike.
You've been pulling the wool over my eyes.
No, it's
the
not
whole
pulling
time.
the wool. When you're here at shoot-around, and I always show up late, I'm watching College Game Day. This is the type of stuff that they put on. I rely on my guys, Seth and Jay Will and Jay Billis and Reese. I rely on these guys to be able to give me the information I need to make it throughout my day.
Kids, if you work hard, one day you can count watching College Game Day as work, like Corey does.
I mean, is it not? I'm waiting for you to tell me it's not.
It's easy. It's not. Freeman for Dorn.
Well, you see Dorn right there, wanted to attack the basket, but saw Anis Mahmoud standing right behind him, the ACC's leading shot blocker, and decided to take it out. And it ends up becoming a turnover for NC State, because Torin Dorn, who has had no fear of challenging anyone all season long, did not want to challenge Mahmoud among the basket.
So still a 2-point lead for Louisville, looking for its 20th win on the year. The Cards are 19-11, and also get them to a much more pretty resume with a 10th ACC win as well to finish 10-8.
And another turnover for Louisville. That's pretty much the only thing they've done wrong in this game. You know, David Padgett has to be happy with the fact, even though you can't tell on his face right now, the fact that they have 13 turnovers in this game thus far and still a 2-point lead playing on the road, that shows you how good his team has been defensively, as well as offensively when they've gotten opportunities at the rim. They've just given away way too many opportunities.
Because you're right, there's not a lot of games where you could turn it over 13 times on the road and still be right in it the entire time.
You know how when you hear the beginning of a sentence and then you just stop listening to the rest of it? So when you said you're right, I didn't hear anything else you said after that. I just heard you say I was right. So I'm not sure where it went from there.
Turnovers, bad. Points, good.
There you go.
Seven on the floor here for the Wolfpack as he gets a breather. And Freeman able to create something on his own with the foul against Adele, his second.
And a crafty move there by Al Freeman, recognizing Adele did a very good job defensively. But Adele going for the shot block and Freeman getting him up in the air and finding a way to get to the free throw line. An opportunity to look at Alaric Freeman. Played 3 years at Baylor, redshirted his freshman year, averaging career high in points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game this season. Last 4 games, 22 points a game, but you know one of his best distinctions? He had opportunity to play for me. Yeah, coach that guy. Alongside Cat Barber, Devin Hall. That's pretty good ACC backcourt.
That's an ACC track record of success right there.
And throw in Troy Williams, who started at Indiana, now playing in the NBA. So the 4 of those guys together, not a bad AAU team. Oddly enough, Al wears the number 12, the same number that Cat Barber wore here.
King was looking for Adele. It's another turnover, and the frustration is evident on Padgett's face and certainly with Adele after a difficult game with a couple big mistakes from him on Thursday night.
And an even bigger reason for the frustration is you're playing with 4 guards on the court. If there's any one time you should be able to handle the basketball, it's when you have 4 guards. NC State's doing a great job handling the basketball. They're not turning it over much at all. And you would expect better from Louisville when they have their 4 guards in the lineup.
Great feed. Abu fouled on the way up by Mahmoud. Holding down the 5 spot with your 7 on the bench, and they give it right to him.
And a great seal and great entry pass to be able to get Abu an opportunity at the rim versus Mahmoud. I don't believe that would actually have been a foul call had the basket gone in. That was more of a result type of play. Not that there wasn't a foul or contact. I believe the officials would allow that one to play on if Abu had made the layup.
It's been an interesting ride for Abu as well, the senior who went to the Sweet 16 as a freshman back in 14-15. A couple of losing seasons, a coaching change, and yet he'll emerge as one of the better players in recent memory for this team.
And not just getting to the Sweet 16, knocking off Villanova, who was a number 1 seed in that tournament,
and then losing to
Louisville. See, there you go. I like your research.
The pinballs around, out to Freeman, who's got a 3-on-2. Across the lane for Dorn.
Turning defense into offense. The Wolfpack, Al Freeman, getting out in transition, finding Torin Dorn, who gives the Pack the 3-point lead.
Major bubble implications later tonight, 10:15 Eastern on ESPN. More of the Saturday Showcase brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. UCLA, first 4 out right now. They won the first matchup at the beginning of February, and USC has rattled off 4 straight to get into the last 4 in. That game on ESPN, 10:15 Eastern tonight. Mike Cousins and Corey Alexander back here with you at PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina. NC State, a 1-point lead at the half. Louisville took the lead, and now the Wolfpack have grabbed it back by 3 with fewer than 12 minutes to play in the final game of the regular season for both of these teams.
And another turnover, or near turnover, coming out of the timeout. I'm sure there's nothing that could frustrate Coach David Padgett even more, but yet he has a chance to talk it over with his team, trailing by 3.
Round 2, first meeting of the season at the Smith Center. It was a UNC 4-point win. And it comes your way 8:15 after this one is over. 15 turnovers tonight. It's almost 1/3 of the possessions the Cardinals have had. They've turned it over, and yet it's still a 3-point game. And Corey, their lineup has played a factor into why they look like a team that really is not very familiar with them.
Well, Louisville's a team that is usually playing 2 bigs on the floor, but to match NC State, David Padgett has gone to a lineup where he's playing with only 1 big. And you would think with 4 guards on the floor, it would help them handle the basketball better, but it really has hampered them. It seems to be a bit, but the turnovers, 15 already in this game, and when you're shooting 53% from the field, you want to get more shots. You can't continue to give away opportunities, especially in a game that, and we talked with Coach Padgett beforehand, I mean, this is pretty much as must-win as you can get, especially when you look into the eyes of the NCAA Tournament Committee. They need this win to be able to come out and play as well as they have, but yet have 15 turnovers is probably a lack of focus. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the hangover from their last game, of course, we know ended in a way that we haven't seen much in college basketball.
And a chance for a berth per BPI, a win for them into the NCAA tournament, 100%. They lose 16% off of that if they don't come away with a win. Now, Coach Padgett said really there doesn't seem to be any hangover, any residual effects. A really hard practice yesterday. But you never know what's going on upstairs for all the players.
You really don't, and you see the resiliency of his team. They actually were blown out at Duke, were able to come back and get a win against Virginia Tech. So he's talked about how his team has been through so much and bounced back from so many things this year. This is just another obstacle, but yet the environment that they're in, the situation that they're in right now, in a situation that's pretty much a must-win, you have to be focusing on the task at hand. They've done so with everything except for handling the basketball.
Freeman doing that well. Found Hunt across the floor for a 3. McMahon left open. He can't end a 10-0 run.
Now with Markel Johnson on the bench, Al Freeman actually becomes the primary ball handler as he's able to make a beautiful feed before, and now finding another 3-point shooter. Braxton Beverly lines it up, knocks it down. We're normally seeing Markel Johnson being the playmaker for his friends, but it's been Al Freeman over the last couple possessions, finding Sam Hunt in the corner. The one guy in the building you definitely don't want to leave open, who's made 15 of his last 19 threes. And then Al Freeman caught in traffic, finding Braxton Beverly, who buries another 3, back-to-back threes for NC State, as they have now gotten out to a 13-0 run to take an 8-point lead.
Corey, it just looks like the Cardinals have been caught out of position those last 2 shots. The help side defender was scrambling very late to get over.
Well, and it really was, but the one thing that you don't want to do when you're playing against NC State, especially as Freeman is attacking the paint, and you have a guy like Ray Spalding or Honest Mahmoud, as David Padgett has gone back to his 2 big lineups, allow Al Freeman to go against the shot blockers. Don't leave Sam Hunt. The way he's shooting the basketball right now, especially in this building, that is easy pickings for Hunt along the perimeter.
And you know where he's going to shoot it from. 90% of his shots have been threes this year.
Yeah, he made a 2 in this game, which you didn't even say anything about it. It needed a little more emphasis because that's a rare occurrence.
Nice save by Dorn under the basket. Crowd on its feet at the last whistle. And Freeman wanted continuation. He doesn't get it. The call is on the floor.
Now Freeman recognizing an advantage he has going to the basket. As an offensive player, you never worry about the guy in front of you. You're looking at what's behind him. And he sees Mahmoud doesn't have a chance to get over there in time to be able to affect his shot. So Al Freeman keeps his foot on the gas pedal trying to get to the rim.
Scoring-wise, Freeman hasn't had a great night. He's 3 for 10 with 10 points. But adding to his total, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, making his impact felt another way.
And that's where he's grown, especially since Kevin Keats has gone to the 4-guard lineup. Al Freeman has become much more of just a scorer and is helping his team make winning plays.
Nearly lost the dribble off his thigh. Adele's near signature shot not dropping for him. From the corner, another 3 short.
Sam Hunt actually rushed that when he was shocked he was so open, but of course when you see the 7-footer and Mahmoud coming at you, you got to get that one off quick.
And a shot finally goes down, ending a 13-point unanswered streak by NC State, in which the Cards were 0 for 7 from the floor.
And we're going to see Louisville now go to the zone defense. We talked with Coach Padgett earlier today if we would see it, and he says matchups have really kept him out of the zone, but he felt this was a game that he may need to utilize it and to slow NC State down offensively, going to the zone as defensive possession.
Well, it was Dorn who's able to quickly find a gap and perhaps make them reconsider. Snyder, quick trigger, and he's got the answer to make it a 6-point game.
And you said reconsider. We just saw Coach Padgett yell out one. I'm not sure if he's going to switch to defense right now.
A patient-packed possession. Dorn got stuck, and it's Beverly from the wing for 3. Nobody home. And that quickly seats the crowd here in Raleigh as Spalding stuffs it.
Well, with the smaller lineup, it's going to be difficult for NC State to guard Louisville on the interior, but right now the 2s don't hurt nearly as much as the 3s that NC State is getting along the perimeter. A couple of defensive breakdowns allowing Braxton Beverly to get free.
He's a perfect 3 for 3 from beyond the arc. Handling the rock, mismatch against Mahmoud. It's off the fingertips and down the nylon. Turnover. It's one dribble and into the basket for Adele.
But as this game winds down, it's not time for Louisville to be able to trade baskets. At some point, they've got to be able to hunker down and get some stops versus NC State. But this is the type of offense that the fans here at PNC Arena have come accustomed to watching from NC State, especially over their last 10 games or so. They've been very good in this building on the offensive end of the floor.
Freeman had been calling for it all possession. Matched on Adele and stuffed at the rim by Mahmoud. Adele pushes to the wing. Snyder a 3. Offensive board Adele, who's got 20 to lead the Cards. Snyder had Mahmoud at the opposite side of the lane. He could get rid of it or go with it. A keeper, he's going to the line. And a 7-point game.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots. Get back to 100%.
Despite 20 points from Dang Adele, Louisville in need of a win here closing out the regular season has turned it over far too much for their liking. Meanwhile, NC State behind Al Freeman, Torin Dorn, Braxton Beverly, and Omer Yurtseven. 4 players with at least 10 points trying to finish out the regular season with its 21st victory of the year.
And that balanced scoring has really been what Coach Keats has seen from his team over that last stretch. Going into the game against Georgia Tech on Thursday, they had actually shot over 50% from the floor for 5 consecutive games. And that's just a byproduct of taking good shots. And they've done the same thing here, especially in the second half, versus the Louisville defense has allowed them to be able to build up to the 6-point lead.
What's really been interesting to watch, too, with the Wolfpack on offense, Markel Johnson running the point a lot in the first half. It's been Al Freeman quite a bit. 6 assists today with no turnovers, and that's a season high for him, 6 assists.
And, you know, Markel Johnson actually was injured on Thursday. He had a shoulder injury, and he was actually landed on his shoulder. And he didn't play the end of that game versus Georgia Tech. And if you look at the stretch right now where NC State has been able to stretch this lead out a bit, they've done it without Markel Johnson on the floor. And he's the guy that's really been their leader over the last, 11 or so games. So they're actually being even more productive with Johnson on the bench.
Foul on Yurtseven, reaching over the back there. And that's his first. Nice day for him, though, offensively, with 13 points, 3 of 5 from deep.
Right now for NC State, this is where their issue has been during this season. Their half-court defense, they have to find a way to continue to get stops. And a great one there by Yurtseven, not only coming up with a missed shot, but defending and coming up with a defensive rebound to end the possession.
You like that shot?
No, and Kevin Keys doesn't like that shot. And the reason I say that, because if they do have one guy that is a culprit of often trying to take hero shots, it is Al Freeman. He's played very well under control in this game, but he is a natural scorer. And at times he will go out outside the offense and take shots that they don't need, especially when you consider time to score.
Perry from deep. A much-needed 3-point shot to cut the lead to 2. Seven unanswered points from the Cardinals. Dorn 10 to shoot, working on Sutton. Left side gets a pair.
And Torin Dorn really has been the guy that's come to the rescue of NC State all season long, especially when they need big baskets attacking the rim.
Snyder trying to do a lot of it himself. Yurtseven stuffs it right back down.
And we talk about Spalding and Mahmoud and how good of a shot blocking team Louisville is, but we don't often mention the fact that Yurtseven averages closest to 2 blocks a game for NC State as well, especially during ACC play. So a big stop defensively again for NC State.
Timeout for the Wolfpack, a 4-point lead and a chance to set their strategy for the home stretch.
Previously on 8 Miles Apart.
The Tar Heels take down the Blue Devils 82-78.
Looks like we made it. We keep it in the family, 'cause that's the way it's supposed to be. Sunny days are here again. Having fun until the end. Looks like we made it.
Mike, do any of these graphics and does that look familiar to you?
Full House.
Full House?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the 80s. And you were born in what year?
89.
Okay, in 89, let me see. In the last 100 meetings when we look at this North Carolina-Duke matchup, but when you look back at the 80s, do you know who was playing in that matchup in the 80s?
Please school me, Corey.
Well, I'm going to tell you there's a guy that goes by the name of the Greatness, His Highness, His Airness. His logo is on the jersey of the uniform. He was playing in the 80s. James Worthy at North Carolina. Our own Jay Billis was playing for Duke. in the 80s, as was Johnny Dawkins, one of the Duke all-time greats. But the fact that you were born in '89 might have depressed me a little bit.
Where were you then?
'89? I was in my, let's see, that was my sophomore or junior year of high school. I could boogie in '89 too. Just in case you were wondering, yes, I could boogie in '89.
Well, that game, Duke Carolina, is going to be another classic. Markel Johnson missed the three. You're at 7. Wisely sends it back out. It's not so much about seeding because both of those teams right now are looking at number 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament, but it's about respect and bragging rights for a long time once this season's over. Johnson's got to go, finds Beverly on the wing. Cleared everything with a 3. And it's just a one-possession game right now. 66-62 with Louisville trying to finish off the season with its 20th win overall and its 10th league win.
So when you say the one-possession game, are you assuming that someone's going to get fouled in a three-point shot?
Did you watch the Louisville-Virginia game?
Touche, my friend, touche.
Crowd on its feet as NC State looks to bleed down the clock. Johnson right to the bucket. He's got 2. Nobody stepped in front. Rejection and a foul. But Corey, what a change it was, just determining who's handling the ball for NC State.
Absolutely, and they put the ball back in the hands of Markel Johnson, and he's able to not beat only 1 but 2 defenders to the rim, and an easy bucket, the nice in and out to freeze Ray Spalding and find his way to the rim. But as much as we talk about what NC State has done offensively over their last few possessions, you have to mention what Omer Yurtseven has meant to them on the defensive end of the floor. A huge block shot on that possession to come up with another stop. And Yurtseven, who's been good offensively today, has been great defensively.
4 block shots for the big man today for NC State. Minute 34 to go. Their lead is 8. And Spalding goes over Yurtseven.
Nice move by Spalding on the block there, but as this game starts to dwindle down, you've got to speed up the pace of NC State.
And there's the pressure. Loose ball on the floor, fight for it. Jump ball is the call. And the ball stays with the Wolfpack on the alternating possession.
And a nice play there by Quentin Snyder. Does a great job with the run and jump. No one for NC State communicating at all with Torn Doran, letting him know to watch his back. And near still there by Snyder.
Timeout, Wolfpack.
NC State takes a timeout with 1:09 to go. When we're done here, we will send you to Duke and Carolina. The big game following 8:15 Eastern tip-off. And later tonight, SportsCenter on ESPN after UCLA and USC with Bucci and Anderson. We'll bring you highlights from Rockets and Celtics as Houston goes for win number 15 in a row. Post-game from North Carolina and Duke. Jay Billis will be live on SportsCenter to break it all down. And a full recap from the NFL Combine of the top quarterbacks with the draft 8 weeks away. SportsCenter tonight after college hoops and also on the ESPN app.
So you mean to tell me when I'm watching SportsCenter, I've got to watch stuff about the NFL draft for the next 8 weeks?
It's only 8 weeks. It's 2 months if you want a smaller number there. It makes it sound better.
All I need to know is who the Cowboys are taking. That's it.
NC State with a win will be either the 5 or 6 seed. That depends on the outcome of Duke Carolina. A loss, they're automatically 8. And Louisville coming into this game could have been 6, 7, 8, or 9. But with earlier results will be either 6 or 9.
Well, I know Louisville does not want to lose this game.
1 minute.
And it's in a very important game for them, which could put them on the wrong side of the last 4 in or the last 4 byes. But yet, I don't think it's a bad thing for them to have to play in that 8-9 game. I think it gives them an opportunity to get 2 quality wins in the ACC tournament, or at least play against 2 quality opponents if they're able to come away with those wins. But Louisville, of course, just like Syracuse, 2 programs that have yet to get a win in the ACC tournament. So I know that's something that Coach Padgett will be using as motivation as his team heads to Brooklyn.
Is there something to be said for trajectory heading into the conference tournament? With a loss today, Louisville would have lost 4 or 5.
It is definitely something to be said about it, because when you look at the confidence of your team, that's something that's always going to be important, especially at the end of the season.
Perry missed the 3. Spalding gets the easy 2. David Padgett calls timeout. Duke and Carolina coming up next. Let's go check in with Reese at Cameron Indoor.
The fact that he could not make a half-court shot in his own gym today. I mean, I know he's got more reps in that gym than anywhere else. Extremely disappointed in him. 2 Chainz even got closer than Jay Will did in the game today.
Earlier action today in the ACC, Miami, a 1-point win thanks to a Chris Likes free throw. Georgia Tech taking care of business against Wake Forest. 22 for Josh Okogie. Syracuse got its first AP top 25 win at home against Clemson. Florida State 85-76 winner over BC, and Virginia holds off Bonzie Colson and Notre Dame. So your Tuesday action is set. And as it stands now, it would be Louisville and Florida State in that 8-9 game. But both teams here in this game, NC State and Louisville, know they do not have to play on Tuesday.
And this game far from over when you look at the fact there's still 37 in this league is not safe at all. Look to see Coach Padgett go after NC State with a trap to see if they can come up with a turnover. But if they're unable to get the basketball within the next 5 to 6 seconds, probably should think about committing a foul.
Freeman in the corner, sells it a bit, and does go to the line.
But you don't mind that foul. At the end of the day, Freeman handled the trap very well. Spalding unable to get over and cut off the baseline to keep it from going around, and you don't waste much time. Only 2 seconds run off the clock, and you had the fortune of NC State missing a free throw in the previous possession. So that's the way that you have to be able to win games at this time. When you're down, you've got to rely on the opponent to miss a couple free throws and give you extra opportunity.
1-1 for Freeman. .66 with 35 seconds left. Snyder shovels for Adele, wiped away. Fifth block of the night for Yurt-7, and it couldn't have come at a bigger time.
And Yurt-7's biggest contribution to this game has been defensively. He's knocked down 3 3-pointers, and they were all important, but the 5 block shots defending the rim for NC State has been tremendous, as Yurt-7 has changed his focus to making sure his team gets stops instead of points.
Inside of 2 minutes to play in regulation. So Bert Smith and Lamar Simpson go over to the monitor to check who last touched the ball as it went out of bounds.
See Yurt-7 come up with the block, but there is a scramble going out of bounds. You see Markel Johnson going in after the basketball. From that angle, it's going to be tough to see. And it was originally called in favor of NC State. Not sure there's enough evidence there to overturn that and take the basketball away from the Wolfpack.
They would need indisputable video evidence to overturn the call on the floor. They're going to get looks at multiple angles. But right now it is NC State basketball with the Wolfpack out in front. 72-66.
Another angle here is that Spalding coming in, and you see the ball hit Spalding, and it looks like Spalding's right arm, the momentum of his right arm takes that out of bounds. Bert Smith right on top of that call, and I believe that's going to stand. With another huge block by Amir Yurtseven, protecting the rim for the Pack.
(72-66) NC State out in front of Louisville. Torin Dorn with 15 today for the Wolfpack, 13 each for Yurtseven and Braxton Beverly, and a dozen for Al Freeman with 6 assists today as well. That's a huge factor that might go a little bit ignored on the box score.
Well, and Louisville has turned the basketball over 15 times this game, Mike, but they've been able to play for about the last 5 to 6 minutes without a turnover. And when you can focus in that manner at crunch time, why is it that for the first 34 to 35 minutes of this game, they didn't focus on it? Because they would be in a completely different situation if that were the case.
Call reverse, ball to the Cards. McMahon. 3 free throws coming.
Johnson completing his second.
And McMahon just making a smart play. Markel Johnson jumps. You see McMahon move in a little bit, but there is contact as he tries to get that shot off. And it's a small thing and extremely difficult to do as a player. But for Johnson there, you pretty much just have to stay on the floor and make McMahon shoot over the top of him. Very important free throw coming here. If McMahon can make this free throw, it is now a one-possession game, a three-pointer away, and you still have enough time if you're David Padgett to go after the trap and see if you can come up with a turnover. Great substitution here at the end of the make to stop the clock. I'm sorry, to stop possession and make it a dead ball situation, allowing Louisville to set up their pressure.
They got all 3 of those points with no time coming off the clock. Freeman the recipient again, bumped by King, and he goes to the other end of the floor.
King, number 0.
And again, you don't get the steal, you don't mind it. You only lost 1 second on that play. And, you know, one thing that I learned in playing in the ACC, and of course I will say his name in this building, but against the great Dean Smith, rest in peace, Dean Smith would extend a game the longest time. He would foul until there was triple zeros left on the clock and try to give his team a chance to win. And David Padgett right now going to follow that, especially after what Padgett has seen over this past week. He's going to play this thing now all the way to triple zeros and see if he can find a chance for his team to walk out of here and steal a win.
Well, I guess it's a good thing they scheduled tip-off for 8:15 for Duke and North Carolina tonight as we keep Dan, Jay, and Maria waiting. Snyder, the senior, the pride of Louisville. For McMahon, another try from 3, well off the mark. Snared by Perry. From the corner, a 3, no, off back iron. Another opportunity. McMahon for 3. Back iron, no good. And the clock stops with 0.8 of a second left as NC State gets the ball and a chance to seal a victory.
And give NC State's defense credit. Although they were unable to come up with the defensive rebound, they contested each of those three-pointers the right way. And you see the dejection on the face and the body language of the Louisville Cardinals simply because they recognize how important this game was for their NCAA tournament chances. And it just puts that much more pressure on this team having success when they get to Brooklyn.
The Wolfpack confident going into the postseason. Louisville with work to do. Losers of 4 of 5. For our entire crew, my partner Corey Alexander, Mike Cousins saying so long for Raleigh. A short trip over to Duke and Reese.